As Christian men, leadership is something that God calls of us. And for many of us, this can be daunting. How are we to lead? And what does it look like to lead the way God intends us to? You may have an opportunity to lead in your work, school, or church. And knowing what this kind of leader looks like will prepare you and make you a better leader in the long run. In this video, I want to give you 5 qualities to be a better leader and the kind of leader that God calls of us. But first, this is Men Like David, where my goal is to inspire you to be a man after God's own heart. Point number 1 is lead by example. 1 Timothy 4:12 says, "Let no one despise you for your youth, but set the example in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity." Even if we don't realize it or acknowledge it, those around us are influenced by what we do, and how we act impacts those close to us. Even if you are young, you still influence people. As Christian leaders, we are to set the example in what we say, do, and how we act, because people are watching and will catch on to the example we set. It says in Titus 2:7-8, "Show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, so that an opponent may not be able to put us to shame, having nothing evil to say about us." We are to be a model of good works and sound speech, because those that look up to us depend on us to show the way to act, and because it gives credibility to our leadership. When we set the example of good works and sound speech, those who that oppose us will have nothing they can say to discredit our leadership or the example we set. If we set the example, those around us will be benefited, and those who oppose us will not be able to discredit us, saying that we're hypocrites or we just say things, we don't actually do them. Point number 2, to be a man who leads with integrity. This leads me to my next point, which is to lead with integrity. If we are blessed with an opportunity to lead, we must lead in honesty and with integrity. It says in Proverbs 11:3, "The integrity of the upright guides them, but the crookedness of the treacherous destroys them." Leading with dishonesty will destroy your leadership and your credibility. It will destroy people's ability to trust you as a leader. People will not be able to see you as a leader if you don't have integrity and you are dishonest about something. If you act a different way in public but completely different in private, then when your dishonesty comes into light, people's ability to trust you and be led by you will vanish. Leading with honesty and transparency is the standard that God calls of us, as seen in 2 Corinthians 4:2, which says, "But we have renounced disgraceful, underhanded ways. We refuse to practice cunning or to tamper with God's word, but by the open statement of truth, we would commend ourselves to everyone's conscience in the sight of God." Although it might be tempting to use dishonest ways to earn a quick profit, Paul says that we are to refuse to practice any underhanded or cunning ways, especially if we are trying to represent Christ. Point 3 is to lead with humility. As humans, when given an opportunity to lead, it can become easy to start viewing ourselves highly or of more importance than those below us, because after all, we're the ones in charge. This can easily cause us to abuse our leadership positions and cause us to be blinded by our ego. When we are leading with our ego, we become self-serving, hard-hearted leaders. But as Christians, we simply cannot be doing this. We are called to humility. For 1 Peter 5:5-6 says, "Likewise, you who are younger, be subject to the elders. Clothe yourselves, all of you, with humility towards one another, for God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you." Notice how it says, "Clothe yourselves, all of you, with humility towards one another." All of you means that no Christian is exempt from being humble, especially if we are in a leadership position. Being humble isn't just meant for servants or people in lowly positions. It is meant for leaders. And speaking of servants, us as leaders are called to be servants. In Matthew 20:26, it says, "It shall not be so among you, but whoever would be great among you must be your servant." Jesus didn't just say these things, he lived them. In Matthew 11:29, Jesus says this, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." If Jesus, the ultimate leader, the person we aspire to be like every day, was lowly and humble in heart, then us, who are far less important and significant than Jesus, should also take up that same ideology. We should never think too high of ourselves that we can't afford to be humble. Point number 4, lead in the best interest of others. This point kind of correlates with being humble and the last point, but yeah, it says in Philippians 2:4, "Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others." When leading, it can be easy to lead in our own interests, especially in a business setting. We want success and profit, which aren't bad things, but sometimes this mindset can lead us to a me-first mentality, which can sometimes cause us to do things that might benefit us, but not those we are meant to lead. But as Christians, when we lead, we should desire to put others' interests first, as seen in 1 Corinthians 10:24, when it says, "Let no one seek his own good, but the good of his neighbor." Those whom we lead should be better off because they are being led by us. Point number 5 is lead courageously. The last point of today's video is possibly the most important, and it's the one I would say all the other points depend the most on, and that is to lead courageously. Stepping into a leadership role, no matter the size, requires courage. People can be difficult, stubborn, and scary to lead sometimes. And the fear of criticism or failure can cause us to completely avoid stepping into a leadership role because we think we are not qualified, or because it's just too scary and we're afraid of being criticized as a leader. But this is what God says to Joshua prior to him stepping into the role of leading Israel in Joshua 1:9. "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed. The Lord your God is with you wherever you go." God knew leading the stubborn, hard-hearted Israel would be difficult. And he knew Joshua at times would feel in over his head, frustrated and fearful, which is why he commanded him to be courageous. He knew Joshua would need courage to lead this group of people, especially when this group of people oftentimes didn't really want to be led the way that God wanted them to be led. God knew that being courageous on his own would be impossible. Joshua couldn't rely on his own courage, which is why God said that he would be with him wherever he went. Joshua needed to rely on God for his courage and strength, and us as Christians need to rely on God as well for courage and strength in leadership positions. Being a man and a leader means having courage, and this is what 1 Corinthians 16:13 says. "Be watchful and stand firm in the faith. Act like men, be strong." We will act like men and be strong in our decisions, actions, and faith and leadership if we choose to rely on God. That's kind of all I have for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked it, leave a like, obviously. Comment down below which part you thought was the most important or impactful. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Also, before you go, forgot to mention this. Comment down below which Christian merch brand is your favorite. For me, I'm wearing Disciple Threads right now. I mean, that's what it says on the front. And I don't know if you can see the back. Try. That's what it says on the back. I don't know what that looks like, but yeah. Comment down below which one is your favorite Christian brand. And yeah.